Good evening. After a two-day manhunt, 2 sleepless nights, law enforcement have apprehended Vance Bolter. That's 48 hours that law enforcement involved in a complex and dangerous manhunt.
Tim Walz has taken Minnesota so far to the left, it's practically floating above Japan. Konnichiwa, Minneapolis. I hope you like teriyaki. I've been blasting Fox News for my Trump Cybertruck for 13 days straight, and I'm ready to Fox-explain Tim.
Imagine a governor who keeps trying but crumbles faster than a cookie left in warm tea. Tim Walz suggested he was ready for the spotlight. Then along came Desi Lydic, bringing so much boldness that even grown men might second-guess every choice they'd ever made. Expect awkward laughter, unexpected tears, and that unmistakable twinge of embarrassment. This is political theater at its most hilarious. And believe me, it only gets more dramatic from here. So hold tight.
We named her Hope. We named her Hope. I'm not crying, you're crying. This guy has made it clear how he stands. He's sitting down at Mar-a-Lago after he got elected president, and this was his exact quote. He's talking to a bunch of folks at Mar-a-Lago. You're rich as hell, and we're gonna give you a tax cut. At the same time, he was telling workers they get paid too much already. That's who this guy is. You tell me who in Wisconsin is sitting around saying, damn, I wish they'd give billionaires tax cuts and screw me.
You definitely don't want to skip this, so go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe before we dive back in. Tim Walz knew another day of political drama was about to unfold. The pattern is easy to spot. A few staged smiles, some obligatory applause, maybe even a handshake so awkward it looks like he's trying to crack a walnut. But then, out of nowhere, Desi Lydic crashes the scene like a comedy demolition derby. Totally by accident, but impossible to ignore.
Man is a Friday night liar. He said that he was a football coach, but he was actually the assistant football coach. Do you really want a VP who serves?
Walz probably ended up Googling something like, is it possible to resign from public humiliation? Because what started as a lighthearted joke quickly spiraled into a merciless roast. Think about it, Walz stood there with the confidence of someone convinced he was untouchable, radiating that classic political arrogance, the kind that makes you act like your opinions are beyond question.
Politicians need to stay out of students' bathrooms, unless they're checking middle school volleyball players for fake penises. He gave out free tampons. You're telling me he's not a communist? That is the definition of...
Desi didn't stop at clever, sarcastic comments. She went further. Stripped of all pretense, all that remained was a person staring blankly, as if wondering why the universe had suddenly turned against him. She didn't just make him look bad, he reacted like his ego had been seized on the spot, completely undone by her searing wit.
It's time for January 6th grade. Giving tampons out in public schools? What's next? Free health care for everyone.
Desi's effortless style makes the whole scene irresistible. She doesn't shout or get rude. She wields her wit like a precise, glowing lightsaber. Slowly, the political armor starts to melt. Meanwhile, as Desi casually roasts marshmallows amid the chaos of metaphorical smoke alarms, Walz stands frozen, pretending nothing is burning around him, like someone denying the fire in their own living room.
This is not how a man moves. This is how a man moves. In conclusion, he is twitchy Tim, Tiananmen Tim, talkative Tim, tantric Tim, Tarragon Tim. Back off, Tim. I won't let you destroy the Minnesota that I...
He looked like a malfunctioning machine, each laugh, grin, and sharp remark chipping away at his composure. The comedy only intensified because he was so unprepared. Walz clearly believed he was untouchable, shielded from scrutiny, safe from ridicule, protected from anyone challenging the careful image he had built. He forced a chuckle, but it sounded more like he was choking on despair. By the end, he wasn't sparring with Desi, he was battling himself. The crowd offered no support, the laughter was unmistakable, directed entirely at his expense. For a politician, few blows sting harder than realizing the praise belongs to someone else. Desi was running the show, and Walz, who arrived expecting applause, left feeling overshadowed after a 5-course comedic feast. You could almost see the trembling he tried to hide, the glint of frustration, the flicker of tears. Tim, we saw it all. You weren't brimming with triumph. What we witnessed was a mix of failure, unease, and utter dread.
What has happened to Milwaukee, Minnesota. And that's exactly what Tim Walz will do to Atlanta, Michigan, to Phoenix, South Dakota, and to the great capital of our nation.
His dignity evaporated, leaving him looking like a child caught fibbing about the last cookie. Desi dismantled every ounce of his carefully constructed confidence, leaving Walz barely holding it together in front of a roaring audience. And imagine trying to lead a state and then having your pride shredded for everyone to see. How could Walz possibly handle genuine political opposition if this is his reaction to Desi Lydic? Perhaps that's the heart of it. His entire system short-circuited when confronted with real comedy. He was far too used to stage scenarios and pre-written interviews. Desi didn't just make him look foolish, she revealed the fragility of his persona. Walz was just another man on a stage, out of his depth, stripped of his usual safety net of applause and scripted lines. Beyond the laughs, there was meaning here. Comedy's power to highlight absurdity and uncover truth. Some politicians are little more than empty rhetoric, and when the balloon finally pops, it's never pretty.
Could possibly think it would be a good idea to lie about being in Tiananmen Square when you were in Nebraska. I mean, come on, it's just so beyond the pale. And now he's thinking about running for president. Didn't he get the memo that the American people do not want a second coming of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? And Kamala is in California considering a run for governor. We do not want any more DEI woke, any of that. We just don't. We're done with the woke and trans insanity.
What made it even more striking was that Desi didn't even break a sweat. She didn't shout or raise her voice. Her words carried more weight than any debate Walz could have imagined, yet she remained cool and composed, icy in her delivery. Meanwhile, Walz flailed as if she were swatting a fly while he was actually in the midst of a full-blown existential crisis. Desi, on the other hand, deftly surrounded him with pointed remarks sharper than any political attack, keeping the pressure relentless. The audience knew exactly what they were witnessing, a live comedy show unfolding in real time. Every gasp, cheer, and giggle fueled the unraveling of Walz's composure. As the crowd sided with Desi, he visibly began to crumble, his mind racing for some clever response, but nothing came. A tense silence settled between his embarrassed chuckles, punctuated only by Desi's relentless cutting humor. Each joke landed like a warning shot, relentless and merciless, leaving Walz exposed and floundering.
Tim Walz, okay, Jen Psaki, she's a talking head, whatever, but Tim Walz was recently the vice presidential candidate on the Democratic ticket. Maybe you'd expect a little better, a little higher in terms of the rhetoric. You would be disappointed.
Just saying. There will be news sometime, just so you know, there will be news.
Look at him, so chipper. Don't worry, there will be news. In other words, Trump will die. Something to look forward to. The absolute nerve, especially with a president who was subjected to at least...
By the end of the night, it wasn't just Walz's pride in ruins. His entire facade had crumbled. He tried to interject, made a feeble joke, but Desi quickly turned the moment into a lesson. A warning to any politician who thinks they can outplay her in comedy. The reality is harsh. You can't outjoke someone like Desi no matter how clever, cunning, or rehearsed you are. The second wave of her wit hit even harder than the first. When people realize their own choices have led them straight into this kind of disaster, you can see it on their faces. Tim Walz stood there looking like someone who had just lost a staring contest with a houseplant while trying and failing to maintain an air of authority. Even the audience felt it. They understood that sensitivity sharpens comedy, and Walz was serving his vulnerability on a silver platter. Every attempt at a composed smile twisted into a grimace. Desi's restrained chuckles only fueled the fire, like adding more fuel to marshmallows roasting over a blazing flame. The more he tried to act unaffected, the funnier it became. At first, the room didn't seem to side with Desi, but the moment Walz spectacularly collapsed, the laughter erupted, unanimous and unstoppable.
Not only Biden, but Kamala Harris was heralding Bidenomics, pretending that there wasn't a problem at the border. And then fundamentally, this idea that President Biden was up for another 4 years of the job, while Americans in poll after poll for year after year were saying he's too old to do the job. Your party stood against all of those things.
Look, Joe Biden coming in and during COVID and being a governor through COVID did a hell of a job. But I think one of the things that we didn't do is we assumed that we said, and it was true, that we were going to have a soft landing in our economy.
Meanwhile, Desi was in complete control. Her confidence filled the room. Politicians often lean on rehearsed authority, but Desi's natural comedic dominance gave her true power. She dismantled Walz's ego piece by piece, handing it to the audience while he struggled to form a single coherent thought. As she relentlessly punctured his carefully crafted image, it became clear just how little authority he truly had. With each biting remark, Desi stripped away the borrowed suit of confidence he was wearing. Things went especially sideways during the emotional portion. Walz's voice cracked like a teenager ordering fast food rather than delivering any profound statement about the future of the state. He tried to retreat to escape the chaos, but it was too late. Desi slammed the scene shut, with unrelenting humor as the audience witnessed his vulnerability and sensed his panic. She didn't just mock him, she pinpointed the exact moment his confidence collapsed. That was the decisive, unforgettable blow.
A teacher snatches the bully's ass up. Come sit with me. That's what I know. Someone's bullying. Oh, you can sit with me for a while. And then I would lean on him. I'd bully him back. He's not a teacher. He's not a politician. He's a creepy guy who can't remember his speeches. I don't know what the hell was in the water in that White House, or was everyone on the same bad cocaine? But Kamala can't speak, he can't speak. Biden was so high he couldn't remember anything. Like, this is literally the dumbest administration of all time. Why is he talking?
It really is the ultimate clown show. And I said this in the 5. He's a clown without...
Think about it. Before stepping into the room, Walz could have memorized every bullet point, practiced his commanding tone, and given himself a pep talk about how he would own the stage. What he couldn't prepare for was being roasted to pieces by a comic who could do nothing more than raise an eyebrow and analyze him. It's impossible to rehearse. Walz assumed that as the only one on stage, he was the main character. Instead, Desi turned him into the unwitting sidekick, the one everyone laughs at without him realizing it. He was the setup. She was the punchline. The audience saw every crack in his armor, every faltering attempt at control. His sobs weren't cinematic tears. They were the raw, uncontrollable kind that make your eyes water and your voice stumble, the kind that expose your weaknesses despite your best efforts. No one bought Walz's attempt to make it seem like heartfelt emotion. The room wasn't admiring his sensitivity. They were witnessing his unraveling. Their reaction was clear. Wow, he's crumbling because Desi effortlessly stripped away his dignity.
He believes a lot of wild things. One of them is transgender surgery for people who are under 13.
So for those out there who are wondering, aren't there something else you could be doing or doesn't seem to impact you in your life? This is what it means to show empathy. This is what it means to be welcoming.
He changed the Minnesota state flag to make it look like a Somali flag. You haven't seen that?
But our current flag is problematic. I think we all know that. We've evolved into a more diverse state, and I think it's more reflective.
Desi wasn't being cruel. She was simply brutally honest in the funniest way imaginable. That's what made it sting even more. She wasn't shouting and no one was under attack. Calmly, she exposed just how absurd Walz's political persona had become. Deep down, Walz knew the truth behind the comedy was unbearable, and he had to learn it the hard way. By the time Desi finished, Walz no longer even looked like a politician. His posture was gone, his poise evaporated. He seemed smaller, almost shrinking in the spotlight, a man desperately clinging to the last shreds of dignity while the image of leadership slipped away. If his body could speak, it would have shouted, "Get me out of here!" The audience loved it. They weren't just entertained, they were captivated. Desi achieved something few can, wielding comedy so sharply that it laid bare the emptiness of political performance, revealing the hollowness that words alone could never reach.
He mini-mooned in Pyongyang. He went to a destination wedding on the lesbian island from Wonder Woman. Forget the Bible, this guy's gonna be sworn in on a menu from Panda Express. Put down the chopsticks, Tim. In America, we eat noodles with a fork in one hand.
Walz didn't stand a chance once the audience turned on him. Every jab, every pointed remark chipped away at his performance. Every cheer for Desi was a reminder that the comic had won and the politician was powerless. The results were immediate. After Walz spoke, no one was discussing his message. They were talking about his collapse. He tried to act as if nothing had happened, but that's the danger of public humiliation. It lingers. It follows you. It shows up at the worst possible moment. It sticks and defines you in ways you can't erase. People would remember the night Desi Lydic effortlessly tore down Walz's facade every time he tried to appear solemn or dignified. Comedy clings to politicians like gum on a shoe. They never escape it. By the end, Walz wasn't even performing anymore. The man who had once radiated the confidence of a rising politician now looked utterly lost, as if he had wandered into the wrong room and was desperately searching for an escape.
And how soon was it after the election? Like
a week or two. When it wasn't at that point, I was just asking questions. Like it wasn't even. I was like, what happened to the $2.5 billion we raised? Why did we spend it on Beyonce? Why did we spend 2.5? Why did we spend millions of dollars on Oprah? Like legitimate questions that needed to be answered. But the amount of hate I got for that was just overwhelming. And the final straw, the moment that I knew that I needed to leave, was actually around Christmas.
Every attempt by Walz to reclaim control only made matters worse. He tried to mask his humiliation with a grin, but it faltered, like a man losing a contest against his own reflection. Every laugh, every cheer for Desi was a nail in his political coffin. Tim Walz, once confident in rehearsed speeches and polished authority, was reduced to a figure struggling to hold on to the last shreds of dignity. Meanwhile, Desi was untouchable, calm, composed, wielding her wit like a precise instrument. She didn't need to shout or attack. A raised eyebrow or a pointed comment was enough. The audience did the rest, laughing, gasping, and watching as his carefully built facade crumbled. What had started as a leadership exercise, a politician trying to assert authority, became an unforgettable lesson in comedy and humility. Walz's posture vanished, his poise gone as he shrank under the spotlight. His attempts to appear composed only made him more ridiculous, every fake chuckle and strained smile exposing him further. The sobs, the awkward pauses, the failed jokes, all became evidence of his unraveling. Desi didn't just make him look foolish, she revealed the fragility of his ego and the hollowness behind his political veneer. The symbolism was perfect. It wasn't a scandal, a policy failure, or opposition research that brought him down. It was comedy. Desi's humor exposed the absurdity of his performance and left him powerless before the audience, who had become willing participants in the spectacle. By the end, Walz was no longer performing. He looked lost, desperate, and utterly defeated. Desi, on the other hand, walked out with effortless authority, her dominance clear, her position as the unchallenged force exposing inept politicians solidified. The audience didn't just laugh, they witnessed a masterclass in how truth, delivered with precision and humor, can topple even the most carefully constructed image.